Okay, so for those of you who are just joining us, this is the part of the recording for the live session where we're going to go over our week 2 assignment in greater detail. On the previous recording, I was just saying that I'm not going to do a demo of writing a research paper, but I will go over some, how you can research, what you should be doing, and we're really going to take a good look at the entire assignment. All right, so for our learning objectives, we're going to classify 8 kinds of typography categories. And this is where this is relevant to your career. You know, it's kind of good to know, all right, why am I doing this? You know, I think showing career relevancy is really important. And I also want to just make a quick note that a lot of the projects, I would probably say 97% of the projects that you guys do in the graphic arts program here are projects that you will do in your career. So they are great projects to put on your Behance site, to put in, your portfolio to show to potential employers. Employers want to see these types of projects and see that you know how to do these types of projects. So with that being said, a research project, or a research paper, not exactly something you're probably going to show to a potential employer, but if it is well designed and well laid out, it is definitely a portfolio piece. So just keep that in mind. So let's discuss our career relevancy. With all the font offerings available to designers, separating font families into different categories is a good way to narrow down your choices to find a font that fits your purpose. Being familiar with these classifications and categories and their appropriate uses will also help you communicate more clearly with other designers and clients. So again, picking that font that I picked for that car ad, that was not a good font choice. And if I had known to, stop and look at the different categories and pick from a category, I wouldn't have picked from that category. So, type categories, classifications, and font families. In the 19th century, printers and foundries started to separate fonts into different classifications based on some main features. Serif and sans serif are the broadest of these classifications. So think of it kind of as like the family tree. Maybe serifs are the dad fonts and sans serifs are the mom fonts or something like that, or your grandparents. One of them had feet, one of them didn't. If you start to kind of look at it this way and you can kind of build the family tree of fonts, it makes a little bit more sense. So serifs are the little ending feet of each of the characters. And I'll open up this little link here so you can see. Here's a serif, here's a foot. Of the characters stemming from the finishing touch of a chisel in stone. Sans serifs are fonts that do not have feet. So here we go again. Whoops. Sans serif. I think the link is wrong. It is wrong. Ooh. Type decon. I will have to let somebody know this. Search for sans serif. Your result did not yield. That might be why. There we go. Wow. How can that be? That makes 0 sense. All right. I'll have to tell them to find another link for this one. But either way, sans serifs do not have the feet. Sans literally means without serif in Latin. Within those categories, other sub-classifications are sometimes used to further define serif fonts with certain qualities such as humanist, old style, transitional, modern, Egyptian slab, serif. There are also newer classifications for other types of fonts with similar characteristics like those found in Typekit, such as monostyle, handwritten, script, decorative, and black letter. More specifically, font families are groups of fonts that have been designed to belong together. Often they are just different styles of the same font design, like a regular, a bold, and italic. Remember how many Futurs there were and how many Helveticas there were? Some font families expand to include condensed and expanded versions, each sometimes even found in light, regular, and italic versions as well. Even though they may belong to the same classification, each of these font families has their own specific name, history, and design background. So exploring and using Typekit. Your computer comes installed with quite a few commonly used fonts, many which have become overused and misused by people with little or no understanding of the impact of proper font choices. But there's a whole world of font choices out there available to you. Many popular fonts such as Universe, Saban, and Clarendon you must pay for in order to use in your projects. Similar to using stock images, these and many other well-designed fonts are copyrighted. This can become quite expensive for a designer or client, especially if you are only using the font for a headline or one specific advertisement. But as an Adobe CC user, you are not stuck using only the fonts that came installed on your computer. Typekit, and here's the link. Hopefully this one is correct. There it is. Yay, is here. And Typekit is new. Yes, heathens, exactly. With your Adobe CC subscription, you have access to hundreds of fonts through Typekit, which has the ability to sync the fonts into your Adobe CC programs, such as InDesign, Illustrator, and Photoshop, and use them in all of your design projects without you having to download them to your computer. Yay! Note, some fonts have several different type styles available, and you have to sync each one to use it. And this is what I want to let you know about syncing through Typekit if you haven't ever done this yet. It can take a couple minutes. I've had it take almost an hour for me. So if you sync them and they don't show up immediately, don't fret. Sometimes you need to walk away and have a sandwich and come back and they will be synced. There's been times where it has synced a font in 30 seconds for me, and then there are times where it's taken an hour and I had to restart my machine and then they showed up. So just to let you know that, you know, if it's taking a minute, that could be why. All right, here is the prompt. For this assignment, you will explore fonts in 8 different type categories and evaluate their uses and proper application. Use Typekit to sync one font from each of the 8 classification categories, such as serif, sans serif, slab serif, script, black letter, mono, hand, and decorative into your CC library. Choose fonts that you do not already have on your computer. Use the fonts, details, and availability tabs in Typekit for review and information about the font. Assignment instructions. Note, you can access Typekit through the character menu in the Adobe CC programs or at typekit.com fonts, and this will open that up in a new link or a new tab. And you can get to the fonts right here or in InDesign. If you go into the character panel, let me just go back to view, normal. If you go into the character panel and you click on add fonts from Typekit, it's going to open Typekit up in your browser because it's not right in the programs yet. You still have to, this is where that syncing comes in. And if you go up to your Adobe Creative Cloud icon and you go to your assets and fonts, you can see which fonts have been synced to your machine. So if you're waiting for it or you don't see it in InDesign, if it doesn't show up here as synced yet, you need to just keep waiting, basically. And like I said, sometimes you'll just have to give it a minute. So with that being said, you're going to use InDesign this week, and you're going to create an 8.5 by 11 document with default margin settings. So let's just do that real quick. Command N for a new document. Go to print, go to letter 8.5 by 11, and leave it with default settings, which is 1/2 inch for your margins, 1 column, a default gutter of 0.1667, and the default should be no bleed or slug, and hit create. There you go. It should look like this, very basic. Type the name of the font in that font and label which classification it was found in. Then, and this is the important part, in a legible font, so again, black letter for a paragraph of 50 to 60 words, probably not a good choice. You want to type out why you chose that font, who designed that font, what type of personality you think it has, and why. Where you might use it most often. So a headline for an entertainment publication, body text for a corporation, a specific commercial website, a logo, etc., etc. You will present a total of 8 fonts, one from each of these classifications: serif, sans serif, slab serif, script, black letter, monotype, hand, and decorative. Use the typesetting skills that you have learned so far to present your information neatly and professionally. Keep the text aligned, legible, and within the margins. Do not add color or any decorative elements. You want the focus on the look of the font without any distractions. Then you're going to save your InDesign file. You're going to export your InDesign file to a PDF, and you're going to submit the PDF file to me for grading. Now, this should be, it should technically be 1 page if you cannot get it to fit to 1 page. Because, yes, exactly. I'll tell you what I'm talking about, but I'm agreeing with the chat right now. Amanda, I wrote what you typed, yes. You should have this on 1 page. Because you really wrote a lot in your paragraphs, it's okay to go to extra pages. Just make sure that there's a reason for it. You know, think of your layout. You may want to go with a 2-column layout. I think that might be a good idea. So go to layout, margins and columns, do a 2-column layout. Make sure you have your name on this somewhere. And I would set it up that way. So maybe let's do, I'll kind of show you an example. So let's go to Typekit. I have Typekit open. And I'm going to do black letter first. I'm going to go right in order. Or was black letter not first? Oh, sorry, serif first. So you can see over here, under classifications, I can click on serif, and it's just going to open up all of the serif fonts for me. So maybe I will choose this very first one that shows up. And I can see that there are 14 fonts in my plan. I'm just going to sync the first one. Please do not do the same exact example as me. And this is Bagatella, but it's a serif font. Yes, I chose serif fonts first. Yeah, all right, because this is a sans serif font, which is throwing me off right there. All right, so what I need to do is type the name of the font in that font. I need to wait because it's probably still syncing. So make sure you spell it correctly. So I'm going to copy and paste it right from Typekit, and I'm going to put my name first. I'm going to do DES113, typography, and this is going to be kind of my headline. I'm going to do this in 24 type, and I'm going to do it in Futura because I'm also going to make my legible font for my paragraph in Futura. So I just want that to be the same throughout. So let me go window. What am I looking for here? Type. There we go. Where's my character styles? Styles. There we go. Character styles. All right, I'm going to add a new character style. this and name it headline from my top. All right. Then type a text box. And I'll see if all of your fonts from Typekit, you can just click right here under character, the TK for Typekit, and it'll just show your Typekit fonts. And then you can search for that one that, see, as you can see, Bagatella hasn't showed up yet. Still syncing. It's probably because I'm also running Zoom on my machine, and my computer's like, that's funny that you think I'm going to show up anytime soon. Bagatella, Bagatella, Bagatella. Ooh, I think I lost my battery on my mouse. But I can at least put in the name, and I'm going to make this .40 point, we'll say. And I'm going to make another character style. And I'm going to name this character style, whoops, font size. I'm going to double click on it. And it's going to be based on none for a font plus the size of 40 point. I'm going to say okay. All right, where are the... And next I'm going to do my body text, which is 50 to 60 words. Let me grab a paragraph up here, or 2 paragraphs. I'm going to grab this and just copy and paste it in. And I'm going to make this 12-point type at least. And I'm going to change it to Futura. And I'm going to make another character style for myself. I'm going to name this my body text. Say okay. So that way I can keep everything nice and kind of organized. I'm probably going to need a couple of pages for this. So you can use as many pages as you need. And then you would do a sans serif font. Oops. And maybe I'll copy and paste this over here. And what if I did for sans serif, what if I did Futura, which is already probably on your machine, so that wouldn't be an option. I just don't feel like waiting on another. Oh, my battery keeps, my battery's almost dead in this. And then I discussed that one. Then I did, what's next? A slab serif. So maybe for my slab serif, I do Rockwell, which again is probably on your machine, bold, and I leave that the same. My write-up, move this down to the next. Make a copy of this text box, move it over, and I'll show you a little trick if you don't know this trick already. So this trick, delete that out, is to close up, it's running off my page, this text box till I get this little red box here with the plus sign. I'm going to click on that plus sign. I already have another text box drawn over here. Click on that plus sign and link that text so it runs up into the second column. So even if you have multiple text boxes, you can keep everything nice and organized. And I would definitely try to set a grid Let's go to your preferences, grids, not in the back, set to 50%. I right now have my line spacing set at 14.4, so I would want an increment of at least 14.4. That's where you figure out that increment is based on your line spacing. So if you want it to be an increment of 14, which is fine, I would change my line spacing to 14 point. View. Show baseline grid. There we go. And then you can move things so it lines up with your grid. Again, you want to make it nice and neat. Now everything's on the same grid. So this is how you would set that up, and then you would keep going. So you would do script, black letter, monotype, hand. So we can kind of take a look at all of the different options that Adobe Typekit has. And browse. There we go. If you click back on the browse button, oh, there you go. Yep, that's a good option too. Or you can go to paragraph styles and select align to grid. Yes, yes. Lots of good options and tips and tricks in the chat. That's why it's great to come to the live session live if you can, because you guys always have good ideas in the chat, and sometimes I don't see it until the end. And the other idea was sometimes you do have to close and reopen the program if your fonts aren't showing up from Typekit. Let's see if it's synced yet. Nope, it'll sync as soon as I finish. That's usually what ends up happening. Manage fonts. Is it syncs once I finish my live session. All right, so let's just kind of take a little bit of a look through Typekit. Like I said, you can pick each classification and see what they have for an option just by clicking right in this classifications tab. And then you can check out all of the different options. Oh, here it is. The font Bagata Light was added. Yay! So I can change in design. Bagatella or whatever it is. Bagatella. There we go. Yay! All right. And once you click on the actual font, or when you're trying to decide on one, what you need to look for is how many fonts in your plan it says or to buy. So you might see a really cool font, but if there are 0 fonts in your plan, which means that you would have to buy it, so you can't just sync all of them. This has happened to me before where I found like a really cool font and it was like 0 fonts in your plan or to buy. And I was like, oh, that's kind of a bummer. Watch, I'll never find one now. It always seems to be when I'm not paying attention. Let's look at this one. Sometimes it's like 8 fonts, or you can buy the rest of them. Or if you're looking for Future might be an option. Oh, you had it happen with Bodoni last week. Okay. So see, I have some futures here. Let's try Bodoni. Just so I can kind of show you what it looks like. Okay, here it is. See how it says to buy from $59.99. So you can see, oh, wait a minute, I have to purchase that one, or I can go to this one right here, which has 50 fonts in my plan. Which I can sync, which isn't showing up right now. The sync button's not showing up. It's taking a minute. There we go. So that's kind of the difference. And then if you're wondering how to get back, if you can click on just the Typekit icon and it'll bring you up here and it looks different. Or if you want it to look the way it was, click on Browse and it'll put the classifications over here. I don't know why Adobe has it set up, but they even show you some recommendations. You know, I need some recommendations for headings, or I need some recommendations for paragraph text. So if you're kind of having a hard time and you're like, I should probably have a normal weight, which is right in the middle, and a normal width, and a normal X height, not a short and not a tall, and standard. I don't want anything with capital letters only. And I also want some default figure styles. Like I don't want numbers where the numbers aren't really lined up. You know, here's some great options now to pick from. And then, all right, I also know that I want it to be a serif font. Here you go. Some great options for you, except for this one. This is not a great option for you to pick from, unless if you need to type in time. So, you know, this is, Typekit really can help you out with making some choices. So this is how I would do this. I would just go right through the list, pick the fonts, and then like it says, you know, you can kind of find out a little bit about it when you click on the actual font. Details about the designer, how to use, what kind of support it has. Here's some samples. And then about the family, about the foundry, you know, all of the information you need to write your paragraphs are on here. You can even do the read more, visit the designer's page. Pretty cool. Do not copy and paste from this. You need to write in your own words. Also, my tip for you for writing up your 8 different paragraphs, write them up first in Microsoft Word, and then copy and paste it into InDesign. And the reason I say that is Microsoft Word is going to underline your spelling and your grammatical errors. And, you know, it's a word processor, so it's going to catch more mistakes. You know, InDesign, you can do a spell check, but it's not going to catch your grammar. So you want to make sure that everything is grammatically correct, you have correct spelling, etc., etc. All right, so make sure that you've looked over everything in the prompt, that you're following all of the instructions. If you do need to see a sample, there is a sample that you can look at. There's actually 2 samples. Here's one sample and another sample. Not a full paragraph, but you can see how they set it up. I agree. I'll keep that to myself, but I agree. All right, so then you also want to make sure that you're looking over the rubric before you submit it, because this is what I'm grading you against. So you followed the instructions. Your assignment has the required file name convention, which is up here, and the file type of PDF. You have 1 font from each of the 8 Typekit categories, so you can see where you would lose points. Your font presented, and you've presented the font and you've answered the questions. So no grammar, spelling errors. You know, all 4 questions were answered. It was well-expressed answers. The font presented and the questions answered, again, for category 2. This is for each font. So it's going to be 8 of these. And then the presentation was neat and arranged and presented with legible text, no color or added decorations. So satisfactory, maybe you were organized, but there could be some refinement. It's fair, it's legible and understandable, or you might need some improvement. And if it is late, I will do 20% off by taking, you know, there might be random points taken off in here in each of the areas, and I will make a note to let you know, like, you lost points here because it was late, not that you actually did this part wrong, not that you actually named your submission wrong, but I had to come up with a way to take off 20%. So again, make sure you're getting your work in on time. If you're going to be late, make sure you are emailing me early rather than later. So that way you can, you know, I can get with you and we can figure out a plan. If you want to do more research for this assignment, you can definitely go onto the, hold on, library site through Shark or through the library and do some research here. ProQuest is a really good spot to, whoops, I apparently changed my ProQuest password and I don't remember what it is. Whoa, hold on here. Maybe I can get in through here. Nope. All right. But, you know, you can definitely use the library to do some extra research. You can just research on the web. And, you know, again, make sure you're writing in your own words. And also, I have here, just because we have a couple of minutes left, we have about 20 minutes or 18 minutes left, some 20 famous typefaces and the faces behind them. So if you need some added inspiration for this week, we've got Helvetica, designed by Max Miedinger. It's a Swiss type. He was a Swiss typeface designer. He was famous for creating Helvetica in 1957. Marketed as a symbol of cutting-edge Swiss technology, Helvetica went global at once. And he kind of looks like the type of guy that would design Helvetica. I'm just going to say. He looks like, Helvetica is a no-nonsense font, and he looks like he was a no-nonsense type of guy. Then we have Frutiger and Universe. One of the prominent typeface designers of the 20th century was Adrian Frutiger, and, you know, not for nothing, but he named the font after himself, who continues influencing the direction of digital typography in the 21st century. He is best known for creating the typefaces of Universe and Frutiger. So Universe has a little bit more of a Helvetica feel to it. Then we have John Baskerville. He was an English businessman in areas including Japanning and papier-mâché, but he is, I don't know what Japanning is. I feel like I need to Google that. But he is best remembered as a printer and a typographer. Baskerville was responsible for significant innovations in printing, paper, and ink production. He developed a technique which produced a smoother, whiter paper, which showcased his strong black type. Baskerville also pioneered a completely new style of typography, adding wide margins and leading between each line. Then we have Matthew Carter, who designed Georgia. He was a type designer who, or is a type designer who lives in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Carter's career in type design has witnessed the transition from physical metal type to digital type. And Georgia is always one of those fonts I feel like that you can pick as a default online. Then we have Monotype Imaging Inc., which is a company or a foundry which designed Rockwell and Times New Roman. Oh, thank you for looking that up. So in the chat, Japanning is a type of finish that originated as a European imitation of Asian lacquerwork. It was first used on furniture, but was later much used on small items in metal. So that makes sense for type. And the word originated in the 17th century. Thank you very much for looking that up. So back to monotype imaging. Imagine being the person who actually designed Rockwell, but because you work for a type foundry, you will never be known as being that person who designed that font, and instead your company is known for it. That's gonna stink. There is so much work that goes into designing a font, and you're like, I'm the person who designed Rockwell, and they're like, really? But your name's never going to be on it. Same with Times New Roman. Times New Roman is by far their most well-known product. Everybody has Times New Roman on their machine. Everybody's mom does everything in Times New Roman. All right, so again, some resources that you can tap into for that assignment. You know, look up stuff on Vimeo or YouTube. Do a Google search. Go to your local library. Go to Shark, to the library resources with the Google Scholar search, and then also the AIGA to search on for those biographies on your designer. All right, so lots of fun stuff for this week. Don't forget that for that assessment for this week, you have a midterm quiz. It's not timed. You have no time limit for this midterm quiz. What I am getting at is, if you are not 100% sure of the answer, open up a new browser window and look it up. You're not being timed. You don't get extra points for finishing faster than everybody else. Take your time to make sure that you know the answer before you submit your answer. There's 15 questions, and you can only take it once, so be careful to read the questions and the answer choices, and if you're not sure, look it up. Make sure that you're watching the videos, the lectures, reading over the media from weeks 1 and 2. That's where those questions are coming from. All right, do we have any, speaking of questions, do we have any questions before we end for tonight? And our multi-session will be tomorrow night. So if you have any extra questions, you need any tutoring, did you have a question about typeface examples? Or were you talking about the assignment? Oh, you know what? We're running really late. So what I think I might do is I'm going to make myself a note to do the typeface, showing them in next week, the portraits. Because I think it's cool to look and see what everybody else has done. So yeah, we'll definitely do that next week. I thought that that might be a little ambitious of me to try to get that done this week. So I made myself a note that we'll show the typeface portraits next week. But yes, we'll definitely get to that because that's fun. Yeah. All right. Well, have a great night. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you everybody who took the time to watch our entire lecture. And I definitely look forward to seeing your work this week. If you have any late work, make sure that you're getting that in. And if you need any extra help, I hope to see you tomorrow. All right. Have a great night.